I'm a 29-year-old woman, the oldest of 3 daughters born into what most people in our town would call a picture-perfect Midwestern family. We had Sunday dinners without fail, summer weekends at a dusty old cabin near the lake, matching pajamas every Christmas Eve, and a family photo calendar that went out to every relative each December. When I was 16, I started helping my dad at his construction supply business, mostly payroll, bookkeeping, sorting invoices. He said I had a head for numbers, and I kept showing up every Saturday in summer until I left for college. Even after I moved out, I'd remote in to help during billing season or cover when the office manager got sick. My mom's health started declining when I was in college, so I took on more than just school. I worked a job on campus and another on weekends back home, just to help cover things. My sisters were younger. Jill was in high school, Dana still in middle school, so I ended up doing a lot of the cooking, driving, even grocery shopping during breaks. By the time I graduated, I'd already built a quiet routine around doing everything I could to keep things running. I didn't complain. I didn't party. I just got up early, handled what needed to be done, and stayed out of the way. That's how I was raised. But none of that ever translated into anything permanent. No ownership stake, no title, not even a formal offer to stay on. When I once mentioned maybe working full-time at the business, my dad brushed it off and said, "You're too sharp for a local gig. You'll outgrow us." At 26, I met Mason. We were seated next to each other at a fundraising dinner I was helping cater. He worked in corporate finance, dressed neat, always carried himself like someone who knew exactly where his next 5 years were going. We dated for almost 2 years, long distance at first, then moved in together after I landed a job at an architecture firm an hour away. Mason wasn't the hometown boy my parents pictured for me. He didn't hunt, didn't follow football, and he wasn't raised 5 minutes down the road like Craig, my sister Jill's now husband, who coaches the local high school team and grew up around our family. My dad called Craig salt of the earth. Mason, he just called polite. We got married at the courthouse during the middle of COVID. No one traveled, no big reception. Just the two of us, my friend Miranda as a witness, and dinner from a food truck afterward. I thought the low-key approach made sense, given the world at the time. Apparently that's when everything changed. That Christmas, the annual photo calendar showed up at our house. I flipped through it like always, until I noticed I wasn't in it. Not one photo. Not even from the family lake trip the summer before, when I'd made the 3-hour drive just to grill burgers and organize a scavenger hunt for the kids. 12 months, and I didn't exist in any of them. I didn't say anything right away. I figured it had to be a mistake. But then the Sunday dinner invites stopped coming. When I asked, my mom texted back something like, "We figured you'd be busy with Mason." Smaller table these days anyway. That smaller table kept shrinking. Jill and Dana still went every weekend. They'd post pictures of pies on the counter, dad carving meat, mom laughing in the background. I watched all of it from my phone while eating leftovers at home. I finally drove over one night after work just to ask what was going on. My mom answered the door, let me in, and made a cup of coffee like always. But when I asked why I was being left out, she said, "Well, you chose your own life now. We didn't want to interfere." That sentence stuck. Jill had started helping at the business by then, after college, where she studied marketing. She hated spreadsheets, couldn't stand early mornings, but she lived nearby, and that was enough. They started calling her the reliable one. That was what they used to call me. Then I found out my dad leased Jill an SUV, one of those mid-size crossovers, for being around to help. No one told me. I heard it from a neighbor who saw her picking up supplies from the lot. That's when I started noticing the pattern. Dana got invited to everything. Jill got gifts and titles. I got polite small talk and vague texts when they needed help with QuickBooks. I never caused a scene. I never begged for inclusion. I just started stepping back. I told myself I might be imagining it, that maybe things were just changing with time, that families drift sometimes. But a part of me knew I was being replaced, slowly, quietly, like no one thought I'd notice. So I stopped showing up. I didn't answer every call. I didn't offer to help unless asked. I figured if I really wasn't part of the picture anymore, I'd give them what they seemed to want. And they didn't fight it. They let me go, just like that. A few months after the calendar incident, another group text popped up, this time about a family brunch at the marina. I saw the thread but didn't respond. When Sunday came and went with no one asking where I was, I muted the chat and never opened it again. Mason noticed. He saw the way I'd go quiet after checking my phone, or how I kept glancing at pictures from old cabin trips when I thought he wasn't looking. One night over dinner, he told me to stop letting them live rent-free in my head. "Focus on what's yours," he said. "They made their choice. You make yours." So I did. I asked my manager at the architecture firm about taking on more design accounts. I started staying late, volunteering for client walkthroughs, even learned the new 3D modeling software before anyone else on the team. Within 6 months, I was promoted to lead designer on a mid-size commercial build. Meanwhile, back in town, Jill was given co-signing authority at the supply business. She posted a picture of herself with a branded clipboard on her story, captioned "Boss Lady Things." Jill never liked spreadsheets. She never even liked being in the office. I wasn't angry. I just got curious. I started wondering how far this replacement really went. That's when I learned, through an old mutual friend who worked at the same bank, that my dad had updated his will and trust, naming Jill and Dana as the beneficiaries of the business. Not a word to me, not even a heads up. I stopped by the house one afternoon while passing through town, just to say hello. My mom was in the garden. I mentioned the trust update casually like I just heard it in conversation. She didn't deny it. She just smiled and said, "You married up, sweetie. You'll be fine." Later that week, I heard that Dana had just closed on a small condo near their neighborhood. My mom helped with the down payment. They hosted a little wine and cheese night to celebrate. I wasn't invited. At that point, I asked once why I kept getting left out of the big things, the decisions, the planning, the gifts. My mom didn't hesitate. "Because you're never around," she said. "That's your choice." So I nodded. I smiled. I acted like it didn't matter. But inside, I started keeping notes. I called my godfather, Ray. He used to be an accountant for family businesses before retiring. He walked me through how ownership structures work, what qualifies as informal contribution, and what kind of paper trail matters. He also taught me how to document retroactively emails, time logs, financial saves, all of it. I still had access to their payroll system from years ago. No one had ever revoked my admin login. I'd helped on and off since college, holidays, sick leaves, bonus periods. When something broke, they always called me. I was the ghost in their system, fixing things in silence. That winter, while they were in Florida for Christmas, my dad texted me asking if I could just this once handle the holiday payroll. He said Jill was overwhelmed and the temp hire was useless. I agreed. No questions asked. Logged in. Ran the numbers. Processed everything like I always did. But this time I paid attention. That's when I saw it. Jill had a monthly line item labeled consulting bonus. It was categorized under services. But she wasn't a contractor. She was family. She didn't even show up most days. Her base pay was double what I ever made when I worked there full-time during college. And she was clocking in twice a week, max. I cross-checked her digital timesheets, auto-logged entries with IP addresses. She'd clock in from her phone while sitting at brunch. Some entries were just minutes apart in different locations. I took screenshots, saved copies, labeled everything. Not out of spite, out of clarity. They hadn't just replaced me. They were still using the system I built, the shortcuts I programmed, the invoice templates I'd created when I was 19. Jill was signing off on my legacy like it was hers, while getting paid bonuses to be the face of a business she barely understood. And they expected me to keep filling the gaps behind the scenes, quietly, invisibly, and without question. So I stopped looking at the family chat and started looking at the numbers. The week after I uncovered the bonus scheme, I booked an appointment with a local estate lawyer Mason had worked with on a previous client project. I didn't explain much, just handed over a binder full of old spreadsheets, saved emails, and payroll logs. The lawyer reviewed everything and asked one question: did they ever promise you ownership? I went home that night and searched through old emails. I found one from when I was 19, where my dad replied to my invoice template with, "This is why I want you running things someday." Another from when I helped them fix a major billing error said, "You're investing now for what'll be yours one day." There were 6 of those scattered over 10 years. With Ray's help, I started building a report, a simple but thorough document tracing every admin task I'd ever done, including estimates on how much each one had saved the company. Billing corrections, payroll cleanups, duplicate vendor flagging, you name it. Over 10 years, it added up to tens of thousands in saved labor and fees. Mason introduced me to a business mediator he knew, a woman who used to work in internal audits. She read through my file and told me, "This is unusually strong. Most people in your position don't keep records like this." I didn't tell anyone in my family what I was doing. No warnings, no speeches, just quiet steps. A few weeks later, I took on a part-time consulting contract with a regional construction supplier based 2 towns over. I didn't use my married name. They'd had a back office issue with data reconciliation, something I could do in my sleep. I fixed it in 2 days and was asked to stay on retainer. My parents still didn't know, but I started seeing little signs that they were bragging in town about how well the girls were managing things. One vendor posted a group photo on social media with the caption, "Working with the next generation." Jill was in the shot, holding a clipboard. The invoice I processed for that vendor had gone out under my old template. Around that time, I called in a favor. Ray helped me connect with a third-party compliance consultant, one who specialized in small business labor audits. I submitted an anonymous tip requesting a review of their consultant classification and bonus payments. It didn't take long. My dad called Mason 3 weeks later, asking if I could look at something quickly. A flagged tax issue had shown up during a vendor partnership renewal, specifically that Jill was being misclassified as a consultant while receiving employee-style bonuses. I handled it. One phone call. I submitted a correction form and walked them through how to reclassify payments properly. I charged nothing, but I marked the moment down. Another favor, no credit. After that, Mason brought up the idea of formally stepping away. He said, "You're still patching a ship they've already renamed." So I wrote a short resignation letter, just 2 paragraphs. I sent it to my dad's business email, CC the office manager. 2 days later, my dad left a voicemail saying I was being dramatic and that family doesn't send resignation letters. I didn't respond. That Christmas, no invite came. No calendar, no dinner, not even a card. In January, the fallout started. The store's largest vendor, one they'd worked with for over 15 years, dropped them. The reason? Unstable accounting and inconsistent reporting. What they didn't know was that the vendor had reached out to my new company a month earlier. I'd spoken to their rep, walked them through our invoicing systems, showed them our logistics tracker, and secured a contract. I was now head of regional logistics at the firm. The text came in during a team meeting. "We're officially switching over. Congrats." I didn't gloat. I didn't call anyone. I just saved the message and moved the file into a folder labeled done. They thought I was replaceable, but now they were the ones looking for help. The vendor drop hit harder than they expected. Shipments were delayed within a week. Their margins thinned out overnight, and customers began calling to complain. Word spread fast. Some longtime clients started pulling back on bulk orders, citing trust issues with internal changes. Instead of reaching out to me directly, my dad called Mason, left a voicemail asking if I'd consider helping clean up this mess. Mason deleted it. A week later, Jill's consulting bonus disappeared. Her hours were increased. She was now responsible for vendor relations, weekly reporting, and supply chain coordination. She tried juggling all of it but missed a critical email and accidentally sent an internal invoice to the wrong vendor. That vendor froze their next shipment. Another account paused services, citing disorganization. Their mom began stopping by the office daily. She brought coffee, reorganized the front desk, and tried to make the place look busy. But customers noticed the difference. Calls weren't returned, orders were late, pricing was off. Dana stopped showing up on weekends. She said she had too much going on, but really, she didn't want to be associated with the chaos. A few customers she'd known for years started avoiding small talk. She picked up on the shift and backed away. Meanwhile, the firm I was consulting with quietly signed 2 new contracts, both with suppliers who used to work with my dad. They liked our reporting structure better. One of them even asked if we'd be open to a 5-year supply deal. We said yes. A friend from town texted me. Everyone's talking about the business losing its edge. Whatever you're doing, it's working. That month, I was invited to a regional networking dinner. During the event, a city developer pitched me the idea of overseeing the design and logistics for 3 new industrial sites. They were planning to build right across from one of my dad's longtime partners. I took the job. At a fundraiser dinner a few weeks later, I ran into one of my dad's old competitors. He asked if I was available for consulting on a renovation project. I accepted. Back at their office, Jill was being pushed to think bigger. My parents talked about acquiring the neighboring supply lot and expanding operations. They handed her the brochures. Jill told Dana she felt in over her head and that things were easier when I quietly handled everything. Dana, seeing where things were heading, applied for a job with a national building chain in another city. She didn't tell anyone until the offer letter arrived. Through a former vendor, I learned my parents were trying to apply for a business loan to cover a seasonal inventory restock. They were denied. The reason? Unverified internal restructuring and irregular financial disclosures. Things were unraveling, quietly, systematically. And I hadn't made a single phone call to cause it. Spring came with my mom's 60th birthday around the corner, a milestone we used to spend months planning together. Caterers, table arrangements, playlists, printed menus. This time, there was no message, no invite, no mention of it at all. I saw the group text, booking the venue. My name wasn't on it. Mason and I booked a weekend up north. A quiet cabin, no phones, no talk of family. We spent the weekend hiking and eating takeout by the fire while everyone else posed for photos in coordinated outfits by the banquet hall fountain. When we got back, pictures were already floating around. Cousins, uncles, neighbors all gathered with balloons and floral centerpieces. My absence stood out more than I expected. A few relatives sent messages asking if I was okay, if something had happened. I answered only one. My aunt showed up at my office the following week, unannounced. She hadn't known I wasn't invited. Said she thought I'd moved away or had a falling out. I just said, they decided I was replaceable. I let them try. She didn't push further. She just handed me a business card and said an investor she knew was looking to modernize their logistics chain and wanted a female-led advisory team. I took the call. 3 weeks later, my company signed a lease on warehouse space just outside town. We launched a beta logistics hub that same month. 12 new hires. 2 of them used to work for my dad. Meanwhile, back at the family business, expansion plans stalled. Their secondary lot got flagged during a city inspection, improper zoning paperwork, and a missing fire permit. Jill tried appealing, but she missed the deadline by 4 days. The whole site was shut down pending review. My dad, who used to speak at every town business panel, started getting passed over. One event sent an invite to me. The local Chamber of Commerce wanted me to speak about logistics, tech, and small business operations. I declined, but word spread. Dana packed up quietly and moved out of her apartment. She relocated to the city and didn't tell anyone until she'd already left. I only found out because she texted me for moving company recommendations. Later that month, my mom called my old workplace to request a reference for Dana. She didn't know I had replaced the former HR lead 6 months ago. The call was routed to admin and then redirected. It never reached me. No blocked numbers, no harsh words, just silence. They kept expecting me to come back and fix it, but I'd already built something else. And they were just now realizing no one was coming to clean up after them. By early summer, the heat wasn't the only thing rising. My dad's business reported a 30% revenue drop in just 1 quarter. Clients pulled back, accounts dried up, and delays became the new normal. I got a call from Ray, my old mentor. He didn't waste time. One of the banks was considering liquidating my family's secondary lot. The loan wasn't getting paid. My dad had tried appealing to the city council for a grace period, but they denied it due to too many financial inconsistencies. No trust left to extend. A few days later, a local real estate broker reached out. He had an industrial property up for grabs and thought my company might be interested in expanding warehouse capacity. I asked for the address. It was the secondary lot, my family's. I didn't negotiate. I paid full market value and closed the deal under my company's name. No tricks, no shortcuts, just business. Construction started 2 weeks later. Jill drove by and saw the new logo going up. Our branding, clean signage, different color scheme. Her family name wasn't on the fence. It never would be again. That night, my mom called Dana crying, said she didn't understand how things had gotten so bad, so fast. Dana didn't sugarcoat it. She said, "You pushed her out. What did you expect?" The next week, I was invited to join a local advisory board for small business mentorship. I accepted. At the first meeting, 2 board members recognized me from a recent article in the local paper. It had run a short profile on my company's growth, with a photo of me in front of our new site. My name was on the front page for the first time since high school graduation. Later that month, one of my dad's former crew members showed up at my office. He was holding a resume in one hand and a folded-up baseball cap in the other. I didn't ask questions. I remembered him from back when I used to help with inventory. He was always patient, always kind. I hired him on the spot. Mason noticed I'd been quiet about it all. He reminded me, "You didn't take anything." They gave it away. By August, my company officially passed my father's in regional distribution metrics. We had more accounts, higher volume, better turnaround time. And now, the same people who once told me I wasn't part of the family had to drive past my name on billboards, warehouse trucks, and delivery vans every single day. By fall, we expanded into 2 more counties and signed contracts with 3 government infrastructure suppliers. The onboarding was quick, our systems were ready, our staffing was tight, and our reporting tools ran cleaner than anything our competitors were offering. My name started circulating beyond town limits. I got invited to 2 state-level logistics roundtables and a procurement summit for small business vendors. I didn't speak at any of them. I just listened and took notes, but more than once, someone would lean over and ask if I used to be part of the family firm. The answer always spoke for itself. Back in town, my parents took out a second emergency loan. This one came with steep interest and a 6-month penalty clause. It wasn't for expansion, it was just to cover payroll. Jill tried to fix things with a local social media campaign. New photos, employee spotlights, a "We're back" slogan, but it didn't land. The delays continued. Mistakes piled up. Reviews stayed negative. One by one, suppliers I'd worked with in my early 20s quietly switched over. No drama, just new contracts signed, new logos on their shipping documents. One of them called to say, "I always knew you were the brain behind the operation." The town council skipped my dad for the Community Leadership Award that year, something he'd won 3 times before. A council member told someone on my team they were considering me instead. I declined the nomination. A few days later, a flower arrangement arrived at my office. No note, just my mom's name on the sender label. I asked the receptionist to donate it to the care home across the street. Word came through a local lender that my parents were considering selling off part of the company. A corporate buyer made a conditional offer, partial purchase now, full control in 18 months, no obligation to retain current staff. Jill confronted my dad. For the first time, she started asking why things were done the way they were. Dana came back to town for a weekend visit. She didn't go to the house. She texted me instead and asked to meet for coffee. At the cafe, she sat down, looked around once, then said, "You didn't burn it down. They handed you the matches, and you walked away."